It was the very first object that visited our vicinity in the solar system from outside the solar system. It moved too fast to be bound to the sun.
No one expected the universe to whisper back. But when it didn't send us a message wrapped in words. It hurled a silent traveler across unimaginable distances and straight into our cosmic backyard. For months, it was just a strange blip, a flicker of motion, too fast, too foreign, too unlike anything we had ever tracked before. Scientists named it Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. But at the time, even they didn't fully grasp what kind of message it was. In 2017, when astronomers first detected it streaking through our solar system, it became instantly clear this object was different. It wasn't bound by the gravity of our sun, it was passing through. An interstellar intruder, the very first of its kind we had ever seen. And it didn't stay long. It came in fast, dipped close to Earth, then shot back out into the dark like it had somewhere else to be. All we had were fragmented data points, a few light curves, and countless unanswered questions. People imagined it in their minds. Some saw a cigar-shaped rock tumbling through space. Others imagined it more like a cosmic pancake, spinning end over end. Some even dared to whisper what many were too nervous to suggest out loud. Was it possible, just maybe, that this wasn't a natural object at all? For years, scientists were left guessing. No telescope had captured a real image. Everything we had was theoretical, shadows of shadows. But then everything changed. Years later, from far beyond Earth's surface, the James Webb Space Telescope turned its golden gaze toward the fading trail of that cosmic visitor. It wasn't designed for this, not exactly. It was meant to look deep into the universe's past, to glimpse the birth of galaxies and stars that had long since faded. But in a rare moment of reversal, it looked not outward, but inward. And in that single decision, history was made. The first image came through, and when it did, something unspoken rippled through the astronomical community. It was like hearing a familiar voice call your name in a language you'd never known you understood. What had once been theory, abstraction, imagination, was now real. There it was, Oumuamua, no longer just a whisper of numbers or an artist's guess, but an actual shape, an object etched in light, tangible, detailed. There. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't symmetrical, it didn't look like anything we'd ever seen from the countless comets or asteroids cataloged over centuries. It had edges, striations, layers, as if it had been carved not by time, but by forces from another world entirely. And it wasn't alone. Wrapped in its image were traces of something deeper, something ancient. Scientists pored over every pixel, every flicker of light and shadow. It was more than just a rock. It was a relic. And suddenly, we weren't just observers anymore. We were witnesses. Imagine standing on a cliff and finding a bottle washed ashore with a letter inside, not written in your language, but clearly meant for you. That's what this image was. A letter from another system, from a time and place so far away that its context feels almost mythological. Yet here it was, floating through the frame of a telescope that humans had dreamed up, built and sent into the void. And now through it, we were seeing across time. The universe had thrown us a puzzle, and for the first time, we were holding a piece that fit. The longer scientists stared at the image, the stranger it became. Not because it didn't make sense, but because it almost did. Just enough to tempt certainty, only to pull it away again. The surface wasn't like the dusty, cratered faces of our solar system's asteroids. It had depth, layers, textures that hinted at stories written in a language older than the stars we see at night. There were no visible tails, no icy jets, no signs of outgassing, the hallmarks of a comet. Yet Oumuamua had accelerated in a way that gravity alone couldn't explain. It had drifted, then sped up, like something unseen was pushing it. At first, astronomers thought it might be escaping gases, but no one could prove it. Now with Webb's powerful infrared eye, they began to see patterns in the light, a rhythm in its motion, a slow, tumbling spin, like a wounded traveler limping its way through the cosmos. Not a perfect spin, but a chaotic wobble, like something that had been broken, cracked from a larger hole. And then came the whispers of what it was made of. The data didn't point to the usual suspects, no simple ices or carbon-heavy rock. Instead, what shimmered through the telescope's readings was something far more complex. The signs of tholins, organic molecules forged in the silence of deep space, bathed in cosmic radiation, hardened over millennia. We'd seen them before, but only on the most distant, icy bodies, on Pluto, on Titan, worlds at the edge of sunlight. But this wasn't from our edge. This was from somewhere else. Somewhere whose star was long lost to us. Oumuamua, they realized, had likely been drifting for millions, perhaps billions of years. Its skin was a journal, each layer a page scorched by time, telling a story of collisions, ejections, and the cold silence between stars. There were ridges on its surface that looked like scars. Maybe it had once been part of a planet, or a moon, something warm and whole, until some ancient violence shattered it and hurled the fragments into the abyss. Now imagine that. Imagine a world being born in another solar system, developing its own weather, its own tides, maybe even its own dreams. Then through cataclysm, maybe a collision with another planet, maybe the death of its sun, that world is torn apart. A fragment is flung outward, tossed beyond the reach of its home, spiraling through space alone. And after an eternity of drifting, it passes by us. What are the odds? And yet here we are, looking at it, studying it, remembering it. The image captured by the James Webb Telescope wasn't just science, it was history. And not our history, but someone else's, a stranger's, a fragment of a forgotten chapter written in stone and silence. And in a way, we weren't just analyzing it, we were honoring it, holding a piece of an unknown past and realizing how much of the universe still escapes our understanding. That realization shook something loose, because if one object could survive that journey, how many more are out there? How many remnants of other worlds, other beginnings and endings, are quietly drifting between stars, waiting to cross paths with us? And when they do, will we be ready? For the first time, we didn't just imagine interstellar visitors. We saw one. We met one. And the thing is, it didn't feel foreign. It felt familiar. Not in shape or texture, but in meaning. Because at the heart of all our exploration, beneath the science, beneath the data, there's always been a yearning, a desire not just to look out, but to connect, to reach beyond the small sphere of our sky and find proof that we are not the only story being written. And here it was, proof not of life, but of life's reach. The trace of a system that lived, formed, and broke apart, and whose remains now brushed against ours like two ships in a boundless ocean passing in the dark. Even as the data poured in and the image was dissected pixel by pixel, something unexplainable lingered, a feeling, a stillness. Like humanity had finally opened a long-sealed door, only to find a breeze whispering from a place too far away to name. Scientists could analyze rotation rates, material signatures, and albedo variations. They could model its trajectory and speculate about its origin. But none of that could fully capture the way it felt to see it, to truly see it, for the first time. Oumuamua wasn't just a discovery, it was a mirror, a reflection of how far we've come and how much we still don't know. For the students who stared at the image in awe, for the engineers who spent years building the telescope that made it possible, for the dreamers who once traced stars with their fingers against bedroom ceilings, this was a moment where the impossible became real. Something born from an alien sun had passed close enough for us to witness it, to remember it. And maybe that's what this really was, a kind of remembering, of something we never lived through, yet somehow recognized. A cosmic déjà vu, a flicker of memory from a place our species has never been. But our imagination has always belonged. The timing couldn't have been more poetic. We're standing at the edge of a golden age, launching missions to icy moons, mapping exoplanets, decoding chemical fingerprints of atmospheres light years away. We're building machines that can see deeper, clearer, farther than ever before. And yet, in the midst of all that forward momentum, this single image pulled us gently back to the basics, back to the wonder. Because in the end, that's what drives everything. Not certainty, not even answers, but wonder. The kind that silences a room full of scientists. The kind that brings tears to the eyes of someone who spent their whole life staring into telescopes, chasing shadows. The kind that reminds us that even after centuries of exploration, the universe still knows how to surprise us. Oumuamua's image changed things. Not just our models or theories, but our perspective. It made the void feel less empty. It gave weight to the silence. And it whispered something beautiful, that we are not isolated, that in the vast stretches between stars, objects still move, worlds still collide, stories still unfold. And sometimes, if we're lucky, one of those stories drifts close enough to touch. That little speck of rock didn't slow down. It didn't wave. It didn't linger. But it came close, just close enough for us to know it existed. And maybe that's all it needed to do. Somewhere out there, it continues its journey, alone again, past the influence of any sun, drifting through the dark like a secret too old to speak, too heavy to hold. But now, we carry part of it with us, in memory, in data, in a single frame captured by golden mirrors floating in space. What else is out there, waiting to be seen? That question will echo for generations. It will fuel new missions, new ideas, new dreams. Because once you've looked into the eyes of a traveler from another star, you can never go back to seeing the sky the same way. And maybe, just maybe, the next one is already on its way.